This is
Make It Plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
Happy Labor Day, everyone. And of course, Labor Day falling on the Monday after the jobs report is a good thing because that gives us an opportunity to spend time with the chief economist at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities and our regular correspondent every month when the jobs report comes out to talk about the jobs numbers. We have a bit of news, but should not really be a surprise to anyone. We've been kind of forecasting this is the direction this may go. CenterOnBudget.org's Chad Stone joins us once again. Chad, how are you, buddy?
I'm well, Mark. How are you?
I'm okay. So, big dip in August numbers, but we can probably attribute that to Delta, can't we?
I think that's right. So the jobs number came in at 235,000 jobs, government and private payroll, and that was well below expectations. But expectations, it's always hard to guess the future or what's going to be the report on the previous month. But this was particularly stunning. However, it's not a surprise necessarily because we saw a month like this before earlier in the year when it was much below expectations. And then just last month, we had what turns out with revisions, 1 million jobs created. So there are fluctuations. And on average, we've had $586,000 jobs a month created so far this year, which is a pretty decent pace. So the jobs recovery has been going along, but as the earlier strains of the virus threw a monkey wrench in job creation, I mean, it caused us to have a major recession initially, and then it slowed us down late last year. The Delta and the Delta variant and how we're dealing with it or not dealing with it, depending upon where you live, creates major uncertainty for people. It creates major uncertainty about going back to school, their health and safety concerns, and so uncertainty has certainly had an effect. Not sure that it's going to. I think this is a low. I don't think we'll see another low like this for a while. I think we'll get back closer to the 500,000 or maybe more. But it's a reminder that what we should have remembered all along is that recoveries happen in fits and starts, especially this one because of all the other variables and all the uncertainties. So it's a hit to expectations, and it's a hit. And coming after a very large jobs report, it feels very disappointing. But I expect we'll bounce back some, and maybe even more. Depends how things go with the virus.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, all the years we've been doing this together, we know we've talked about a lot of different things that affect jobs, decline, job growth. But this is a historic first. We're dealing with a variable that is just so unpredictable. So, I mean, that's clear. So, but I have to ask you this, because we always go here too. This is just August. We know, about school closings and how that impacted jobs at the state and local level. What did state and local jobs do in August? Because that's a key month as schools are beginning to reopen. Did they dip as well?
Well, with schools reopening, we should have expected it to go up, but a normal going up at the end of the summer is taken into account in the data in normal years with what's called seasonal adjustment, which means that you anticipate how much is just normal cyclical, and what you're measuring with seasonally adjusted data is the increase or decrease below what you expect based on seasonal factors. And but seasonal factors and the way schools have been opening and closing in the pandemic is out of whack. And so there's a lot. And in fact, I'm going to quote from the Bureau of Labor Statistics jobs report. Recent employment changes are challenging to interpret. Normal seasonal hiring problems have been distorted by the pandemic. And so when the people doing the calculations say the results are difficult to interpret, what are we to do, right?
Yeah.
But there was not much of a gain, and less of a gain, I guess, than was expected, and varied a little bit between state and local education in particular.
Well, that's significant, Chad, because I think people were looking to more. But I think the other variableness I think we have to keep in mind, and this is probably some analysis that's going to take some time to call. You have a Delta variant that is affecting in several ways, including, and we look at state and local education. You know, we're talking with Randy Weingarten of the American Federation of Teachers. As employers are mandating masks and vaccinations, that's also going to affect whether people are going to go back to work, and some people are making different types of choices. So in some school districts, she was in Florida the other day, and so there's a fight in Florida. The governor says, don't wear masks. And so some teachers will, wait a minute, I'm not going back to work. And then some are defying it and wearing masks. So it's an interesting thing. It's this ultimately over time is going to boil down to a question at all levels of employment about what employers are going to require and to what extent employees want to comply, and then those who don't, whether or not they'll be able to keep their jobs. So I mean, that's a whole nother variable in this long term, isn't it?
Yeah. So, and that's exactly right. And there's actually three different. There's state employment, and that in education, state employment is a lot. State colleges and universities. There's local, which we know about, and then there's private education, and a lot of that is private universities, private colleges, but also training schools and things like that. And those were up some, and that's possibly because more private universities are requiring masking and so forth, and have been closed for a year in many cases and have reopened now.
Yeah.
Some of them already, I believe, if you read the news, are already running into to outbreaks that.
Yeah.
In dormitory. I mean, I guess they can control it in classrooms, but not so well in dormitories. So there's lots of uncertainty in both the real world and in the data.
More MIP after this message. Folks, a lot of the numbers you can see for yourselves in Chad's monthly thread, Chad CBPP on Twitter. Folks, you should really follow that, Chad CBPP, and then the charts make it easier to understand than me sharing with you a narrative. But just to highlight a few things, $5.3 million jobs deficit compared with February of 2020. We should just keep that in mind and be very, very sober about that. So we've got to rebuild from that.
Mark, I think we both have money on the mind. You said $5.3 million.
Did I say big? Yeah, man. What? Yeah, 5.3 million job.
I did it just before.
Yeah, right. I don't know what Chad. I don't know why Chad and I talking about. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe something's about to happen good for Chad and me. So old school folks would listen to this show and go out and play a number based on our conversation. Labor force participation rate unchanged in this month's report, 61.7%, 1.6 percentage points below February of 2020. The more realistic, as you write, unemployment rate is the 7.8%. When we're dealing with workers who are misclassified as working rather than unemployed. And we know that the official unemployment rate is always a little lower than the more realistic one. The share of the population with a job up 0.1%, 1 percentage point to 58.5% in the month of August. but it was 61.1, of course, in February 2020. But here's the thing that we really want to highlight this month. The pandemic unemployment assistance, that's about to run out. Am I correct?
You're correct. So all of the fully federally funded unemployment insurance programs that supplement the regular state unemployment insurance system, which half the states have already eliminated, they'll all be gone September 6th. And so the pandemic unemployment assistance is it gets identified as being for gig workers, and they are part of it. But it's also for people who, because the regular state unemployment insurance system has overly restrictive requirements for receiving unemployment insurance, the pandemic unemployment assistance program was created to bring in people who lost a job through no fault of their own, which unemployment insurance is supposed to serve, but didn't get it through their state. They did get it through the PUA program, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. Additional weeks of unemployment for people who are in the regular program but exhaust their regular benefits, the so-called pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, which was extra weeks that made sure that nobody who exhausted their regular unemployment insurance over the course of from way back in March of 2020 through September 6th, nobody who exhausted regular state unemployment insurance lost benefits because they had this emergency. And the supplement to benefits at $1,600 a week, currently $300 a week, that goes away as well. So lots and lots of unemployed workers are going to be left with nothing after September, who are currently on unemployment insurance will be left with nothing after this week. This week is the last week for receiving the federal programs.
Do we have an idea what that number is? How many millions of people we're looking at?
It's over 10 million, I think.
Jesus.
Yeah. 10 million claims. The number's tricky because the data are bad, and the most recent claims data we have is 3 weeks old. So we don't know for sure what the number is going to be this week, but it's a non-trivial number, and it's in the several millions.
So I've not seen any news about that being addressed. I mean, is that something the executive branch can do, or does the legislative branch need to get involved before the end of the week?
I don't see anything happening before the end of the week. The legislative branch would need to be involved. Well, let me take that back. The executive branch did do one small thing already, which is they said that if your state has money left over, and most do, from the state fiscal assistance that was provided to states, you can use it to continue unemployment insurance assistance, that emergency unemployment assistance. However, haven't seen any states take them up on that, which they just announced a week or so ago. I haven't seen any states take them up on it. So I think we really are headed for a cliff, and nothing is in the pipeline for addressing that.
Yeah. Well, something's got to happen.
Yeah, I think an important thing. This is an important lesson that makes it more urgent than ever that we get busy enacting permanent unemployment insurance reform, so that you don't need a PUA program, because more people will be eligible for benefits. You won't need a federal supplement because reformed unemployment insurance system will have higher benefit levels, higher replacement rates of lost earnings, and we'll have a mechanism for providing additional weeks of unemployment insurance when workers in a state with high unemployment. Those things are needed because even, eventually the economy is going to be in good shape again, like it was in 2019 with pretty low unemployment and pretty low unemployment insurance. But people lose their jobs even in the best of economies, and you want a better unemployment insurance system than we have for taking care of them, especially lower wage workers living in states with really crummy state unemployment insurance systems. So that's my rant for reform.
Yeah. Well, and you've been ranting about that for a while.
Yes.
I mean, and that needs to be addressed. That needs to be looked at. More MIP after this message. We dare not make any predictions for the month of September with this variant being what it is. I mean, I don't see how anybody really can. We just have to see what happens. And now that we're aware of the unemployment piece. So this is happening simultaneously as the moratorium on evictions is, I guess, expiring or under attack.
Under attack, yeah.
We're in some murky waters.
Yeah. Oh, one thing that we haven't talked about this time, which is different, is the leisure and hospitality industry.
Okay.
Which sank in the depression, in the recession, recovered and was one of the leading job creating sectors, even though it was still well below. Well, it was unchanged in August. Leisure and hospitality employment was unchanged, meaning that basically people were not going out. People were not increasingly going out to restaurants and bars and things. There's a little uptick in recreation. You may notice that the stadiums are a little fuller for the games, but which is in the leisure and hospitality sector. The eating and drinking places and food away from home were not.
Yeah. And hey, let's face it. This is the last weekend of the summer, so to speak.
Yeah. So
travel does go down. Vacationing, going out, the weather's going to start to change. So I mean, it's not like leisure and hospitality. I don't know that really starts picking back up again until the holidays, and we don't even know what the holidays are going to do with this variant.
Right. So assuming we have accelerating progress in addressing the variant, then that can be helpful because you can go out with distancing to restaurants and so forth. But and without that, it's tough.
Yeah. So yes, folks, this is a report that is not as positive as the one we talked about last month. But again, I don't know how anyone can really be surprised at this point with the unpredictability of this Delta variant and what have you. But obviously, as Chad is pointing out, and if this has never been a priority, it has to be a priority now. This unemployment money is running out, and you can't have people with no money and no protection from eviction. What does that do in the middle of a pandemic? That would be devastating and beget even more crises on top of the crises we already have. Some things just need to be fixed so the crises doesn't expand any more than it already has. So, folks, you all ought to listen. Those of you in positions of policy making and power, Chad's been saying this to us for months. You all ought to listen and read what he's written and the center has written at centeronbudget.org. Something is going to have 10 million people, a lot of people, to be in jeopardy of losing unemployment benefits. And we don't even know how many millions are in jeopardy of losing their places to live. I get it. Some people felt like this thing would be over and we're just ready to run right back it, but it's clear that's not happening. Delta is something else. And then there's something else out there called Lambda we don't know a lot about. this is going to be our new reality for a minute. And policymakers need to stop being in denial about that. Quite frankly, Chad, I mean, that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah. Well, to be clear about a couple things, there is a big program that President Biden and the Democrats in Congress are putting together that addresses lots of things and is transformative in many ways. But this unemployment crisis this unemployment insurance cliff is an issue for an important group of vulnerable people. And on the overall jobs picture, yes, this is disappointing, but the numbers are still going up, and the unemployment is coming down, and the numbers are going up. It's just not as fast as we would like to have the economic improvements help with reducing the need for unemployment insurance. But we're still facing the cliff. That is there.
Yeah. Folks, please be sure to follow Chad's epic and informative threads. If you really want to get into it, you should know all the numbers. At Chad CBPP on Twitter. And then also go to centeronbudget.org to stay informed. Chad, thank you. Hope you and everyone on your team and everybody listening has the best Labor Day you can have.
Thanks, and you too.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. Please remember to listen, like, subscribe, and wherever you get your podcasts, please give the show a 5-star rating. And please do spread the word. Let's all continue to pray for each other during this pandemic and this police-demic. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been